Hey guys, tonight we step out of your comfortable bed and into a place that is anything but cozy. Imagine a world 4 million years ago. The air smells of dust and dry grass, and the ground crunches beneath your bare feet. There are no houses, no warm lights in windows, no drive-through coffee shops, just an endless savanna stretching into the horizon, scattered with acacia trees, thorn bushes, and the occasional muddy waterhole where dangerous eyes linger just below the surface. That's the stage where your early ape-like relatives live. They are small, hairy, and awkward. Yet they hold one remarkable secret. They can walk on two legs, not for long distances like you can, not with a marathoner's grace, but enough to mark them as different from every other ape at the time. Of course, let's be real for a moment. If you were actually dropped into this scene, barefoot and hungry, you probably wouldn't last until breakfast. Between the lurking predators and the lack of Wi-Fi, your chances are slim. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where in the world people are listening from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the tall grass and squint at a small group of Australopithecus afarensis, the species most famous because of Lucy, the fossil found in Ethiopia. They are only about as tall as a fifth grader, covered in shaggy brown hair, with long arms and curved fingers perfect for climbing. At first glance, they look like chimps, but then one of them stands upright and takes a few halting steps on two legs. The stride isn't elegant, the knees wobble, and the balance seems fragile. Yet compared to knuckle walking, this is a revolution. Why walk on two legs? Scientists still argue whether it was about seeing over tall grass, freeing hands for carrying food, or simply making travel more energy efficient. The debate goes back and forth like a stubborn family argument at dinner. No one wins, but everyone gets louder. Still, the fossil evidence is clear. These creatures had pelvises reshaped for bipedalism, knee joints locking into place, and big toes more aligned like yours, instead of sticking out like a thumb. You try a few steps alongside them, and immediately notice the difference. Walking upright feels natural to you. But imagine your body wasn't quite built for it yet. Your back would ache, your balance would wobble, and your short legs wouldn't take you very far before exhaustion set in. That's the reality for these Australopithecines. They can manage it, but they still dart back into the safety of trees at night, climbing with their long arms like oversized squirrels. As you walk with the group, you notice the ground beneath your feet isn't gentle. Sharp stones jab your soles, and thorny plants snag your ankles. The Australopithecus, however, have tougher skin, and besides, they're not logging their daily step count. They just move far enough to reach the next patch of shade or scattered food. The sky above is wide and open, filled with vultures circling endlessly. Every shadow on the grass makes you nervous. A quirky fact to keep you awake. Fossilized footprints of Australopithecus were found in Letoli, Tanzania, preserved in volcanic ash around 6 million years ago. These prints show at least two individuals walking side by side. One smaller, possibly a female or young, and another larger one. The smaller individual's steps actually fall into the tracks of the larger one, almost as if walking in someone else's footprints to stay safe. Some scientists like to imagine this was a family group, a parent and child. Others insist it's coincidence. Historians still argue whether this was love, strategy, or just dumb luck with ash and timing. You pause and imagine that moment. A fresh blanket of ash on the ground, still warm, and these ape-like beings padding across it. They didn't know they were leaving messages for creatures millions of years in the future. You, me, and the archaeologists with brushes and plaster. They were just moving along, likely heading toward food or water, unaware their morning stroll would one day become a scientific celebrity. As you follow them, one of the Australopithecus picks up speed, loping forward in a half-run that looks clumsy but effective. The body tilts forward, arms swing wide, and bare feet slap against the earth. For them, every run is a gamble. They aren't built for long chases. So this movement isn't about hunting, it's about fleeing. And tonight, you get the feeling fleeing is going to happen a lot. The soundscape adds to the unease. Cicadas buzz in relentless chorus, punctuated by distant roars, A troop of baboons screams from a rocky outcrop nearby, warning of danger. Though whether it's a leopard or just baboon drama, you can't be sure. Overhead, clouds gather and darken, promising rain that never quite arrives. In this environment, the weather is fickle, changing moods like a bored teenager, and still, the Australopithecus trudges on two legs. You notice their hands, though broad palms, curved fingers, nails instead of claws. They're free now, carrying nothing tonight, but capable of clutching a branch, a piece of fruit, or even a rock. Walking upright means more than just sawbacks. It means hands are liberated. One day, that simple shift will lead to stone tools, fire, and smartphones. But here and now, it's just enough to carry a bundle of scavenged tubers back to a shady spot. A bit of humour creeps in. Imagine if one of them stumbled across your electric toothbrush or TV remote. They'd probably sniff it, chew it, and then toss it aside like it was a boring stick. To them, survival is the only gadget worth carrying. As twilight spreads across the savannah, the group settles near a tree with sprawling branches. They aren't planning on camping on the ground. No one sane does that here. Instead, they scramble up with ease, clutching bark and swinging their long legs until they're perched high above the grass. You, with your weak modern ankles, struggle to follow, nearly slipping on the way up. The Australopithecus watches, chattering softly, perhaps amused at your clumsiness. From the safety of the branches, you glance down and see shapes moving in the fading light. A hyena lopes past, nose to the ground. In the distance, a pair of lions stalk silently, their golden fur blending perfectly with the dry grass. No one here is safe, not even in the trees leopards climb as well as any ape. Yet for tonight, height gives you an illusion of security. The group settles into rough nests of leaves. Mothers cradle infants close, grooming their fur with rhythmic fingers. Older males grunt softly, heads resting against bark. Night falls heavy, with stars so bright, it feels like the universe is pressing down on you. There's no firelight, no glowing screens, only darkness and the unsettling chorus of nocturnal predators. Still, there's comfort in knowing these Australopithecines, awkward and small as they are, managed to survive here for nearly 2 million years. Their first steps upright, though clumsy, became the foundation of your own stride. Every step you take in sneakers or slippers traces back to these pioneers who dared to leave the safety of 4 limbs. And so, in this precarious perch among the branches, with predators prowling below and stars blazing overhead, you realize the story has only just begun. The simple act of standing up something you barely think about was the radical gamble that changed everything. You wake the next morning to a sky that is already bright and merciless. The night in the trees wasn't exactly restful. You dozed fitfully, listening to lions roaring far off and branches creaking under your weight. Now, the savannah has turned into a shimmering griddle. Heat rises from the earth, and you can smell the faint musk of animals carried on the wind. For Australopithecus, this is a typical day. For you, it's a survival gauntlet that makes camping without bug spray feel like a luxury. The first challenge is food. Australopithecus is not yet a hunter in the way you might imagine with spears and teamwork. Instead, they are opportunists. They climb down from their branches, scanning the ground, sniffing the air, and keeping their heads constantly swiveling for danger. Their survival strategy is not courage, it's clever caution. You try to match their rhythm. A few steps forward, pause, check the horizon, move again. If you forget, a shadow passes and your stomach clenches. You've just remembered you're in someone else's food chain. A few members of the group tug at roots, pulling them up with grunts and sharp bites. Others pluck figs from a tree, squabbling over the ripest ones. The taste is earthy, bittersweet, with gritty seeds. It's not a feast, but it's calories. Australopithecus survives on these humble finds roots, berries, nuts, and the occasional lucky treat of meat. But meat rarely comes from hunting. More often, it comes from scavenging the leftovers of predators. You watch as one of them sniffs the air and moves cautiously toward a distant carcass, ribs jutting like a grotesque cage. This is risky business. A half-eaten wildebeest might look like free food, but it could also be the property of lions that have just stepped away for a drink. You crouch low as the Australopithecus edges closer, ears twitching at every sound. The air is thick with the metallic tang of blood, buzzing flies, and the unmistakable growl of a hyena not far off. The scavenger pulls quickly, tearing off a strip of meat with surprising strength, and then bolts before anyone or anything claims it back. Survival hack. Grab and go? You realize this is their version of fast food. It's messy, risky, and still doesn't come with fries. Scholars often debate whether early bipedalism was partly about this very thing carrying scavenged meat away from danger. Walking on two legs frees your arms to hold a prize, to cradle food, or even to carry an infant. Imagine trying to balance on all fours with a bloody leg bone clenched awkwardly in your mouth. Not a great look. Upright posture gave these ancestors a survival advantage, even if it made them slower sprinters than their predators. And predators are everywhere. As you trudge with the group, the landscape feels alive with watching eyes. A vulture circles overhead, patient and sinister, as if it already knows one of you won't make it to nightfall. You step carefully, remembering last night's fear of hyenas. But now your ears catch a different sound, the faint hiss of a snake in the grass. Australopithecus notices too, freezing in place. They know better than to tangle with venom. After a tense pause, they edge around it, muttering low calls that ripple through the group. Communication is simple, but effective warning sounds, comfort sounds, the building blocks of something that will one day become language. A quirky tidbit. Some anthropologists have suggested that Australopithecus used crude survival hacks that sound strangely modern. There's speculation, for example, that they smeared themselves with mud or dung to mask their scent from predators. Imagine slathering crocodile poop on your body as a kind of prehistoric cologne. Not exactly Chanel, no. Peep, but maybe enough to trick a lion's nose. Whether this was real or just speculation, it's a reminder of how desperate survival can make you. As the sun climbs, you notice another challenge water. Streams dry quickly, and ponds are often shared with elephants, hippos, and of course, crocodiles. Approaching a waterhole is like entering a bar full of people already glaring at you. Everyone is thirsty. Everyone is dangerous. The Australopithecus group waits patiently at the edges, eyes darting constantly. When they finally creep forward, they scoop quick handfuls to drink, never taking their eyes off the water's surface. You sip, heart hammering, because you've just seen a ripple that wasn't caused by the wind. Historians still argue whether the move to the savannah was forced by climate change or opportunistic curiosity. Did forests shrink and push these creatures out into open land? Or did their own adaptive habits pull them there? Either way, it's clear they survived by learning 1,000 small tricks. Stand tall to check the grass, climb trees to sleep, grab food and run. Never trust a waterhole. Their world is a constant puzzle with deadly consequences if you get the answer wrong. You catch yourself reflecting on your own survival hacks. You might brag about a life hack that saves 10 minutes of dishwashing. But here, the stakes are infinitely higher. Forget your hack. And your lunch. It gives you a strange respect for these hairy little beings. They aren't inventing Netflix or crafting poetry, but they're mastering the art of staying alive in a place where almost everything wants them gone. As the day drags on, the group moves again, sticking close together. There is safety in numbers, though safety is always relative. You notice the subtle ways they care for each other, sharing food, picking parasites from fur, soothing infants with quiet sounds. Family bonds are survival hacks too. You realize that walking on two legs didn't just change their posture. It started to change the way they interacted with the world and each other. By late afternoon, clouds gather, and the air shifts with the smell of distant rain. The group pauses under an acacia, gnawing roots, scratching at fleas, and scanning the horizon. The landscape stretches endlessly, beautiful and cruel at the same time. You sit with them, dust clinging to your sweat, hunger gnawing, and a heavy awareness pressing down. Survival here is not about glory, it's about endurance. Tomorrow will bring the same cycle wake in the trees. Dodge predators, scavenge what you can, and sleep again in uneasy safety. And somehow, day after day, year after year, they did it. They hacked their way through a world where every mistake was final. They didn't invent luxury, but they invented persistence. And as you lean against the rough bark, swatting flies, you realize persistence might be the most underrated hack of all. Morning returns again, and with it the shimmering heat of the savannah. The trees seem smaller, the horizon flatter, and every direction looks like it could stretch forever. You're already tired, though the day has barely begun. The Australopithecus clan doesn't get to be tired. They climb down from their night branches and shuffle out into the open with no hint of complaint. To them, this is routine. But to you, it feels like surviving on hard mode. Today, however, something is different. Their eyes linger longer on the stones scattered across the ground, as if the earth itself is offering new possibilities. For most of their existence, Australopithecus didn't use tools the way later species would. They had hands capable of gripping. But their brains hadn't quite connected the dots between holding a rock and shaping it into something sharper. Yet here, on this bright morning, you see the flicker of curiosity. One of them picks up a rounded stone and bangs it against another. The sound cracks through the air like a primitive drum beat. Chips fly, though not intentionally. The stone isn't shaped into anything useful. But for the first time, it looks like something could be. Scientists still argue whether Australopithecus actually used tools regularly, or whether they just dabbled in casual stone flinging like bored toddlers. Some sites suggest bones with cut marks, evidence that sharp stones might have been used to scrape meat. Others claim the marks could just as easily come from animal teeth. It's one of those academic debates that might never be settled. Still, the possibility hangs there. Tantalizing. The first flickers of technology, right here in your hands. You crouch with the group and pick up a stone yourself. It's heavy, cool, reassuring in your palm. You try clacking it against another, producing sparks of sound, but nothing useful. The Australopithecus watches you, lips smacking in curiosity. For them, the stone is both ordinary and magical. It's not yet a knife or a hammer, but it's more than just dead weight. It's a flirtation with invention, and while tools are not yet their specialty, throwing is. Australopithecus arms are long and strong, and the ability to hurl a stone or stick is a survival skill worth its weight in calories. When a vulture swoops too close, one of them hurls a rock with surprising force. The bird veers off, squawking indignantly. It's not hunting, but it's defense, and in this world, defense is half the battle. A quirky tidbit slips into your thoughts. Some researchers believe that early hominins might have used stones not only for food, but also for intimidation. Imagine waving a rock like a prehistoric security system, no batteries required. In a world where predators have teeth and claws, holding a stone in your hand feels almost like holding a secret weapon. Almost. The day unfolds with this quiet experimentation. One female digs into the soil with a stick, prying out termites. Another smacks two stones together again, this time looking almost frustrated. The curiosity is there, bubbling beneath the surface, waiting for some evolutionary spark. You realize you're watching the almost moment, the prelude to invention. It's as if humanity is standing at the edge of an idea, but hasn't quite leaned far enough to fall in. Your thoughts drift to Lucy again, the famous fossil of Australopithecus afarensis, who lived over 3 million years ago. Lucy herself probably never shaped a stone tool, but her species represents this liminal stage, this balance between animal instinct and human imagination. Her skeleton shows clear adaptations for walking upright, yet her skull still houses a brain only about a third the size of yours. To stand where she stood is to feel the weight of being in between, not quite ape, not quite human. As the afternoon burns on, you notice how their hands linger more on stones than before. Perhaps it's boredom, or perhaps it's the restless spark of something new. But tools don't come easily. You feel the frustration too, the sense that your brain wants more than your body can deliver. It's like staring at a locked door when you can almost hear what's on the other side. Historians still argue whether stone use began with Australopithecus or only later with Homo habilis, the so-called handyman. Some evidence points to Homo habilis making clear Oldowan tools around 6 million years ago, long after Australopithecus first appeared. But then again, bones in Ethiopia with cut marks older than that whisper a different story. Were these marks from accidental scraping or from intentional but clumsy butchering? The debate lingers like an itch, unscratchable yet irresistible. Even without formal tools, Australopithecus manipulates the world in small ways that matter. You watch one peel bark to get at insects, another pry apart nuts with steady determination. They don't have patience for your modern shortcuts, no nutcrackers. No knives, but what they lack in finesse, they make up for with persistence. And persistence is often just as effective as brilliance. A shadow interrupts your musings. From the corner of your eye, you catch movement sleek, spotted, and too close for comfort. A leopard has been watching. It steps forward, silent, every muscle a coiled spring. The Australopithecus freeze, eyes wide, bodies tensing. Then, almost as one, they grab stones, hurling them with desperate force. Most miss, but one clatters against the predator's flank. The leopard snarls, hesitates, and then slinks back into the grass. Your pulse hammers in your ears. You've just witnessed the first line of defense a rock as both warning and weapon. It's crude, but it works. You can't help but laugh, though shakily. Who needs pepper spray when you've got an unlimited supply of rocks? Of course, your laugh is short-lived. You realize the leopard might circle back at any time. Humor is easier when someone else is holding the stone. The clan regroups, chattering nervously. They seem proud of their defense, though fear still lingers in their eyes. They know as well as you do that they're small players in this brutal arena. Yet every day they survive. Every scare they endure is another tiny step toward the improbable. As evening paints the savanna in hues of orange and violet, the Australopithecus carry their gathered roots and fruits back toward the trees. The stones are dropped, forgotten for now, blending again with the ground. Yet you feel a strange certainty. Those stones will not be forgotten forever. They'll wait, silent and patient, until the day when one of these hairy beings or their descendants picks them up and refuses to put them down. For now, though, you climb again into the branches, exhausted but alive. You look at your empty hands, then at the stones scattered below. The flirtation has begun. Tools are not yet a love affair, but the spark has been struck. The night swallows the savannah. But somewhere in that darkness, the first glimmer of invention still glows. Faint and irresistible, the night air cools your skin, and for once, you drift a little deeper into sleep among the branches. Still, even in dreams, the savannah hums, lions cough in the dark, hyenas cackle, and the restless wind rattles leaves like 1,000 whispers. By dawn, the Australopithecus clan is already stirring. Babies cling to their mothers' bellies, older juveniles scramble higher before daring to leap down, and males grunt softly to one another as if checking roll call. This isn't just survival, it's social survival. And you're about to see just how much hairy family life mattered to these early ape-humans. The first thing you notice is grooming. One adult sits cross-legged, picking through the fur of another, searching for parasites. The recipient leans into it, eyes half closed, clearly enjoying the attention. Grooming isn't just about hygiene, it's prehistoric therapy. Each stroke says, "I've got your back. You belong here." You realize it's their version of small talk, except instead of chatting about the weather or last night's TV episode. They're digging out fleas. Effective, if not exactly glamorous. And then there are the squabbles. One youngster snatches a fig from another's hand, and suddenly screeches fill the air. Arms flail, teeth flash, and for a tense moment you think someone's about to get bitten. But just as quickly, an older female intervenes, pulling them apart with sharp barks. The losers sulk, the winners gloat, and the group moves on. This constant tug-of-war of bickering and reconciliation might seem chaotic, but it's also practice in hierarchy, practice in boundaries, practice in learning who you can push around and who you should never challenge. Scientists still argue whether Australopithecus groups were more like modern chimp troops, dominated by aggressive males, or gentler, more cooperative like bonobos. Fossils don't exactly come with family portraits, so we're left to read the hints in bones and teeth. Their sexual dimorphism, males being somewhat larger than females, suggests competition played a role. But whether their days were filled with dominance battles or cooperative bonds remains open. Maybe, like all families, it was a messy blend of both. You trail behind as the group makes its way through sparse trees. Their chatter is constant, not words, but a mix of hoots, grunts, and high-pitched squeaks. You realize you're listening to the foundations of language. Every call carries meaning. Danger ahead, food found. Or simply, hey, don't wander too far. You can't decipher the exact phrases, but the emotional weight comes through clearly. You recognize excitement, fear, even the equivalent of prehistoric nagging. It's communication stripped down to essentials, but enough to keep the clan alive. A quirky tidbit drifts into your thoughts. Some researchers believe grooming itself was the precursor to spoken language. As groups grew larger, it became impossible to physically groom everyone to keep bonds strong. Talking, then, became a kind of verbal grooming, a way to maintain social ties without plucking parasites all day. So in a way, when you gossip with a friend over coffee, you're echoing Australopithecus fingers combing through fur. Next time you text someone, imagine it as a flea pick across time. Back on the savannah, playtime breaks out. Two juveniles chase each other, tumbling clumsily in the grass, swinging from low branches. Their shrieks fill the air, and you find yourself smiling despite the danger all around. Play is more than just fun, it's rehearsal. Every mock chase, every pretend wrestle is training for the real thing. When a predator lunges or food must be fought over, these games suddenly become life-saving practice. And then there's care. You watch a mother cradle her infant, stroking its back, humming in low notes. Her face, though framed by hair and heavy brows, looks tender in this moment. The infant clings tightly, trusting absolutely. You realize that without such fierce bonds, the species wouldn't last a single generation. Survival isn't just about outrunning leopards or finding figs. It's about keeping the fragile little ones alive long enough to someday climb down the tree themselves. You notice, too, the subtle signs of hierarchy. Larger males often get the choicest figs, while smaller ones wait their turn. Yet cooperation threads through even this imbalance. When a predator call echoes nearby a sharp, urgent bark, the group rallies as one. Arguments vanish, food is dropped, and all eyes turn toward the threat. Family squabbles are trivial compared to the unifying power of fear. You realize this instinct to close ranks when danger looms is something you still share with them, whether in families, communities, or entire nations. Historians still argue whether Australopithecus formed true pair bonds, long-term partnerships between males and females, or whether their mating resembled the more chaotic strategies of chimpanzees. Fossil evidence, again, is frustratingly silent, but the teeth tell a hint of the story. Males show signs of wearing down from fighting, suggesting competition was part of their lives. Whether love existed in the form, you know it, or whether bonds were fleeting, remains an open question. Still, as you watch the mothers with their young, you can't help but feel that something like affection already ran deep. The afternoon sun grows punishing, and the group huddles together in the shade. They lounge against each other, grooming lazily, napping in the dust. You sit among them, listening to the hum of insects, and feel oddly included. For a moment, you forget you're a guest millions of years out of place. You're just another body in the cluster, soaking in warmth, dozing to the rhythm of ancient family life. Of course, humor always sneaks in. You notice one adolescent picking his nose with the same dedication you've seen on a subway. Another scratches his rear with comical intensity, then casually sniffs his hand. You chuckle quietly, because no matter how far back you go, some habits refuse to evolve. As the day fades, the family life continues quieter now, gentler. Mothers carry infants back toward the safety of trees, while juveniles race each other in one last burst of energy. Adults grunt softly, urging them along. It's bedtime again, and the nightly ritual of climbing begins. You scramble up after them, branches creaking under your unfamiliar weight. But they move with ease, as though they've rehearsed it every night of their lives. Which, of course, they have from your perch. You glance around at the cluster of bodies settling into nests of leaves. One by one, they quiet down. Grooming fades into stillness. Calls soften into sighs. The group becomes a single, breathing organism, bound by invisible ties of family. It's messy. It's noisy. It's full of squabbles. But it's also the glue that has kept them alive across millennia. And as you close your eyes, swaying gently in the branches, you realize that this messy, noisy, affectionate social world is the faint echo of the one you know today. From their squabbles to their grooming, from their tenderness to their play, you can trace the line forward through Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and eventually to your own family dinners and awkward office meetings. The roots of your humanity are here, woven into hairy family life under the African sky. Dawn creeps across the horizon again, soft light spilling through the branches where you and the clan have huddled for safety. Your stomach growls before you even move, and you realize hunger is the one constant that follows every sunrise here. For Australopithecus, life revolves around food finding it, chewing it, and desperately holding onto it before someone bigger or faster snatches it away. This morning, you're about to learn that their diet isn't just simple. It's a patchwork of desperation and ingenuity. The group descends the tree, and immediately the search begins. There's no pantry, no refrigerator waiting with leftovers, just the endless expanse of grassland and whatever luck the day holds. One of the females tugs at roots, ripping them out with a strength that surprises you. She scrapes dirt away, crunches the fibrous stem, and chews slowly. You take a bite yourself, and the taste is earthy, bitter, and stringy enough to make you wish for even the blandest instant noodles. Still, it's calories, and calories mean life. Others in the group turn to fruit. A fig tree offers some bounty round, small, bursting with sugar if ripe, but mouth-puckering if not. You watch juveniles squabble over which are sweetest, while adults take the larger share. This constant grabbing, biting, and defending food might look chaotic, but it's their survival system. Every bite counts. Scientists studying Australopithecus teeth have found thick enamel, perfect for grinding tough food seeds. Nuts, even underground tubers that needed powerful jaws to chew. This enamel tells you something about their menu. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stubbornly effective. Where fragile-toothed animals might starve when fruit ran dry, Australopithecus could gnaw through hard fallback foods that no one else wanted. Survival often favors the stubborn over the fancy. You trudge behind as the clan moves on, and suddenly one female kneels near a mound. She digs quickly, pulling out handfuls of writhing termites. The air fills with the sharp, tangy smell of insects, and she crunches them with relish. Another joins in, licking the squirming bugs from her palm as if it's a delicacy. You hesitate, then pop one in your mouth. The flavor is nutty, almost like sunflower seeds, but the wriggling sensation makes you gag. Still, protein is protein, and Australopithecus isn't picky. Here's a quirky tidbit to keep you awake. Some researchers speculate that Australopithecus may have cracked open bones to suck out marrow, though it's debated whether this was intentional or just opportunistic scavenging. Marrow is calorie-dense, fatty, and exactly the kind of high-reward snack a desperate omnivore would crave. Imagine gnawing on a bone like it's a prehistoric granola bar. It doesn't sound appealing. But out here, every greasy mouthful could mean the difference between life and death. The clan's scavenging brings you to a fresh reminder of risk. A half-eaten antelope carcass, ribs jutting out like a macabre picket fence. Flies swarm in thick clouds, and the smell makes your stomach turn. The Australopithecus approach cautiously, eyes darting for predators. A male leans in, grabs a strip of flesh with his teeth, and rips away. The sound is wet and raw, and though he swallows greedily, his eyes never stop scanning the grass. This is not a feast, it's a gamble. Historians still argue whether Australopithecus regularly ate meat or if it was a rare bonus when circumstances allowed. Their teeth suggest a mostly plant-based diet, but bones with cut marks tempt the idea that they occasionally dabbled in butchery. Perhaps it was both roots and fruit as staples, insects and scavenged meat as opportunistic treats. Either way, it wasn't gourmet. If you're dreaming of a paleo diet in the modern Instagram sense, grilled steak, avocado, and artfully sliced mango, forget it. This is the grimy, survival version. Whatever's edible and doesn't kill you. As the day warms, the group pauses near a patch of tall grass. One female plucks seed heads, rubbing them between her palms until grains scatter. She chews them quickly, not enough for bread, but enough for fuel. Watching her, you see the faintest foreshadowing of agriculture, though. That's still millions of years away. For now, the simple act of chewing seeds is a quiet testament to persistence. You realize food isn't just survival, it's also social glue. When someone finds a cluster of figs, they call softly and others gather. Sharing happens not always equally, but enough to reinforce bonds. A mother passes a chewed lump of fruit into her infant's mouth. It's not pretty, but it's nurturing. Every act of feeding is also an act of teaching. This is edible. This will keep you alive. Humour sneaks in when a juvenile gets ambitious. He grabs a termite-covered stick, waves it like a prize, then tries to cram too many into his mouth at once. He chokes, sputters, and spits half of them back out, while the others chatter in what sounds suspiciously like laughter. You can't help but grin. It's the prehistoric version of trying to swallow too many marshmallows in a campfire game. Later, the clan moves toward water, where more food possibilities await. At the muddy edge, they scoop water plants, chewing the tough stalks. The taste is bland, but filling. You hear splashes. Though, and your heart leaps, hippos wallow nearby, eyes barely above the surface. The Australopithecus keeps a cautious distance, because one bad step and the hippo's massive jaws would end the day abruptly. Even the act of drinking carries danger. By late afternoon, your belly is full enough, though not satisfied. You crave salt, sugar, something warm. But out here, cravings don't matter, only calories do. You gnaw a last fibrous root, your jaw aching, and feel the heaviness of this lifestyle. It's constant labour, constant hunger, constant calculation, and yet, somehow, they endure. Scientists often remark that Australopithecus's diet made them flexible survivors, while other animals specialised, some eating only grass. Others, only meat these ape-humans, kept their menu wide. Fruit, roots, seeds, insects, scavenged flesh. Nothing was off limits. That flexibility may have been their greatest strength. When the environment shifted, when forests thinned or rains failed, specialisation doomed some species. But the Australopithecus' stomach was adaptable, stubborn, and endlessly experimental. As twilight falls, the group settles under a familiar tree. Infants are fed one last time. Juveniles munch whatever scraps they can find, and adults groom each other. Tired, but not yet safe. The day's meals have kept them alive. But tomorrow will demand the same desperate scramble. You settle with them, chewing the last of a fig, sticky juice running down your chin. The flavour is simple, but it carries weight. This is the taste of survival, the taste of persistence. You realise that while your modern meals may be dressed up with spices and sauces, they still echo these ancient choices. Roots, fruit, meat, seeds. The menu hasn't changed as much as you think, it's just been dressed up with fancy plating. And it all began here, with hairy beings gnawing termites and tugging roots from the dirt, stubbornly chewing their way into history. The morning sun climbs once more, and you feel the now familiar pull of exhaustion before the day has even begun. Your legs ache from trudging, your jaw from chewing woody roots, and your nerves from never really sleeping. But the Australopithecus clan doesn't seem to notice. They stir, yawn, and scramble down from their leafy nests as if this is just another Tuesday morning though. Of course, they've never invented calendars. What makes them different, though, isn't just their ability to survive the same grind day after day. It's that their brains are slowly, almost imperceptibly, changing. You can see it in their eyes when they pause to study a stick or glance suspiciously at a vulture. There's a glimmer, something behind the brow ridges. Not as simple as a chimp's stare, yet not quite the reasoning of your own gaze. Their brains, roughly 400-500 cubic centimetres in volume, are small by modern human standards, about 1/3 the size of yours, but they're bigger than those of earlier apes. This in-between stage is the fascinating part. The mind on the brink of something new, a brain just beginning to stretch the limits of what it can imagine. Scientists have long debated what these slightly larger brains really meant. Did they make Australopithecus cleverer than chimps, or only marginally so? Did they dream in flickers, solve puzzles, plan for tomorrow? Historians still argue whether their expanded cranial capacity was enough to allow symbolic thought, or if they remained locked in the present, unable to picture a future. Fossils don't whisper thoughts. They only leave space where neurons once fired. And yet, watching the clan, you sense something restless beneath the surface. Today, that restlessness shows itself in small acts. One juvenile climbs higher than usual into a tree, swaying dangerously on a thin branch. Testing limits. He isn't just grabbing food, he's experimenting. Another young female lingers with a stone, turning it over again and again as if searching for hidden meaning. She bangs it against a root, not effectively, but with persistence. Curiosity, you realize, is the first cousin of intelligence. Here's a quirky tidbit. Endocast's natural molds of the inside of skulls show impressions of Australopithecus brains, and some researchers believe they reveal early changes in areas tied to hand coordination and communication. Imagine that the first neurological hints of holding tools or forming more complex sounds already sculpted into their brain cases. It's like the earliest draft of a novel, scribbled in bone instead of ink. As you walk with the clan across the savannah, you notice how they solve problems. A stream blocks the path. Instead of turning away, they wade in cautiously. Testing depth with sticks, their steps are clumsy but calculated. A trial and error strategy that shows rudimentary reasoning. They may not build rafts or plan dams, but they know how to probe, test, and adapt. You follow their lead, grateful they thought of it before you did. Later, hunger gnaws again, and you watch them deliberate over a tough patch of roots. One tries digging barehanded, gives up, then grabs a stick to pry more effectively. It isn't refined tool use, but it's improvisation. You can't help but marvel. In this raw moment of problem solving, you see the embryo of invention. Their brains may be small, but they're quietly rewriting the rules of survival. Of course, braininess has its limits here. When a sudden shadow sweeps across the ground, the entire group scatters in panic. An eagle with a wingspan wider than your outstretched arms dives, talons flashing, and barely misses a juvenile. The screams are deafening. Instinct rules in these moments, not intellect. They regroup only after the predator soars off, trembling, grooming each other frantically to calm their nerves. Intelligence may be growing, but terror still trumps reason. Historians still argue whether bipedalism and brain expansion developed hand in hand or at different times. Did walking upright free up the brain to grow? Or did brain growth drive the need for new survival strategies that walking enabled? It's a chicken and egg puzzle written across millions of years. Watching the clan, you can't answer it either. All you know is that brains and bodies are dancing together, each pushing the other forward in fits and starts. You rest with them in the shade, noticing how their interactions hint at more than instinct. When a juvenile whimpers, a mother soothes not just by feeding, but by pressing her forehead against his. When an adult male catches sight of a predator in the distance, he doesn't just flee, he signals, then waits for the others to follow before moving. These choices suggest awareness, consideration, the faint beginnings of empathy and planning. It's not Shakespeare, but it's not mindless either. And humor, as always, sneaks in. One adolescent discovers the joy of throwing figs at others. The splats against fur set off squeals. A chase, and finally a scolding from an older female. You grin, because in that moment, you could swear you're watching the world's first food fight. Even mischief requires imagination. By evening, the clan is tired but intact. They climb again into the branches. Bellies full enough, nerves settling after another long day. You lie among them, gazing at the stars, and wonder if their minds ever flickered with questions about those distant lights. Probably not yet, but the seeds of wonder are there. In the spaces between instinct and play, between problem solving and curiosity, the Australopithecus brain is inching towards something more. You realize the tragedy and beauty of this moment. These hairy beings won't ever know what they're building. They'll never compose music, carve statues, or send rockets into space. But in their quiet persistence, in their slightly larger skulls and restless experiments, they're preparing the stage for those who will. Your own eyelids grow heavy, and as you drift, you sense the hum of a brain not yet human, but already straining against its limits. It's the hum of potential, of possibilities still millions of years away. And it's the hum that eventually will lead to you lying here. Imagining them, the night is restless again. You stir at the crack of branches below, and your heart leaps before your brain even wakes. Something moves in the grass silent, deliberate, far too graceful to be one of the clan. For a long breath, the group freezes, huddled together in their tree nests. Then, with a low growl, the sound drifts upward. A leopard, circling beneath the branches. You press yourself against the rough bark, every muscle tense. The predator paces back and forth, tail twitching, yellow eyes flashing in the gloom. Tonight, luck is on your side. After a few minutes, it slinks away. Still, the fear lingers like a stain. This, you realize, is the rhythm of Australopithecus life, constant vigilance. Predators aren't rare visitors. They are an ever-present reality. Lions stalk the grasslands. Leopards climb trees. Hyenas skulk with relentless patience. Crocodiles wait in murky silence. Even eagles sweep down with talons sharp enough to snatch infants. For these hairy, two-legged beings, survival isn't about dominance, it's about not becoming dinner. When dawn arrives, the clan descends warily, scanning every direction. Their eyes dart constantly, and their ears twitch at the faintest rustle. You try to mimic them, learning to distinguish the sound of harmless wind in grass from the whisper of a prowling cat. Every step across the savannah feels like walking across a stage where unseen hunters are always the audience. Soon, the lesson becomes vivid. As the group plucks figs from a tree, a sudden screech erupts. One of the juveniles spotted something. The clan erupts in chaos, dashing toward the nearest tree, scrambling upward with frantic urgency. You scramble too, clumsy and slow, barely hauling yourself onto a branch before the grass parts. A spotted hyena trots through, nose low, sniffing. Its jaws look powerful enough to snap bone in an instant. The hyena lingers, disappointed, then moves on. Below you, the savannah falls quiet again, as if nothing happened. Scientists still argue whether predators shaped human evolution more than hunting did. Some suggest that being prey forced early, hominins to develop sharper eyes, faster reflexes, and tighter social bonds. Others claim it was scavenging and hunting opportunities that mattered more. Either way, watching this clan, you can't deny predators are the constant teachers here, teaching vigilance, cooperation, and the art of knowing when to run. Back on the ground, the clan moves in tight formation. Adults keep juveniles in the center, glancing outward like security guards. At one point, a male picks up a rock, carrying it loosely as they move. You realize it isn't for food, it's for defense. The rock is both talisman and weapon, a comfort against unseen threats. It won't stop a lion, but it might buy enough time to climb a tree. The mid-morning sun blazes, but the dangers don't sleep. At the edge of a stream, the group pauses to drink. They approach with visible reluctance, crouching low, dipping handfuls of water quickly. Your throat is dry, but you hesitate, because the surface ripples in a way that suggests danger. Sure enough, a moment later, a crocodile lunges upward, jaws snapping. The splash is enormous, water spraying in every direction. Everyone shrieks, scattering back. The croc misses, slamming into the mud with a furious thrash before sinking back under the surface. Your pulse pounds as you back away. For Australopithecus, thirst is never just thirst. It's a negotiation with monsters. Here's a quirky tidbit to chew on. Fossilized leopard skulls have been found with puncture marks in Australopithecus bones. Yes, our ancestors didn't just fear leopards. They often ended up inside them. Imagine being part of the fossil record, not as a discoverable skeleton in a museum, but as leftover crumbs in a predator's den. Sobering, isn't it? Despite the danger, the clan adapts in remarkable ways. Their bipedal stance allows them to scan the horizon for lurking predators more effectively than quadrupeds. Their group cohesion means fewer individuals are caught alone, and their quick retreats to trees, while awkward compared to true arboreal animals, still offer crucial refuge. Every choice they make seems molded by the constant pressure of being hunted. Humor still sneaks through even in this bleakness. At one point, a juvenile mistakes a rustling guinea fowl for danger and screams so loudly the whole group bolts up a tree. Once the harmless bird flaps away, the adults scold him with sharp grunts. You grin, imagining this youngster as the prehistoric equivalent of a car alarm going off for no reason. False alarms may be embarrassing, but they're better than the alternative. As the day drags on, the predators keep circling the edges of your awareness. Vultures hover high, their spirals a grim reminder that death is never far. The smell of carrion lingers on the wind, and every patch of tall grass looks suspicious. You begin to realize how mentally exhausting this must be, living in a world where vigilance is a full-time job. There are no vacations here, no safe houses, no nights off. Historians still argue whether fear itself shaped the evolution of early brains. Did constant predator pressure wire the neural circuits of anxiety and hyper-awareness you still carry today? Some suggest your own tendency to jump at shadows or dread the unknown is a direct inheritance from these long, fearful nights on the savannah. Fear, in this sense, wasn't weakness, it was insurance. The cautious survived. The reckless were eaten. Evening settles, painting the grasslands gold. And once again, the group retreats to their tree roost. You climb with them, fingers aching, body sore, mind heavy with the day's tension. Below, the savannah hums with predators stirring awake for the night shift. You watch eyes glint in the darkness, pairs of them, dozens, scattered across the plain. It feels like sitting in the bleachers of a stadium where every spectator is waiting for you to slip. And yet, here you are, alive again. The clan settles into their leaf nests, infants curled close, adults pressed shoulder to shoulder. Their survival strategy isn't strength, or speed, or dominance. It's persistence in the face of endless threats, caution stitched into every instinct, family woven tight against the dangers that prowl below. As you close your eyes, heart still pounding, you realize this is the inheritance of being prey. A brain sharpened by vigilance, a community bound by necessity, and a body always poised between calm and panic. And in some strange way, it's comforting to know that even your distant ancestors lived under the same stars, huddled against the same fears, finding safety only in each other. The sun breaks across the horizon again, but the light feels different today. The air is heavy, thick, as if the world itself is shifting beneath your feet. You notice the clan is restless. Their movements are quick, eyes wide, and you realize they can sense what you only now begin to understand. Climate here is never still. The African landscape is a gambler's table, and Australopithecus plays whether they want to or not. The first sign of change is the vegetation. The trees you clung to last night are thinner, spaced farther apart, while grasses stretch higher and drier. Waterholes shrink into muddy pits, cracked earth circling their edges. The smell of rot and desperation clings to the air. For Australopithecus, this isn't just inconvenience, it's survival roulette, where yesterday held figs and shade. Today holds thorny bushes and parched dust. Tomorrow might bring floods. The climate rolls dice, and they must adapt or vanish. Scientists have pieced together evidence that between 4 and 2 million years ago, Africa's environment swung wildly. Wet periods with lush forests gave way to dry seasons of grassland. These weren't polite seasonal changes like the 4 seasons, you know. These were dramatic, sweeping transformations that could wipe out entire species. Historians still argue whether these swings were the crucible that forged human adaptability. Did constant shifts force brains to grow, bodies to change, and habits to diversify? Or were Australopithecus simply caught in the chaos, clinging on while chance dictated who survived? Today you walk across cracked ground with the clan, dust rising in clouds beneath your steps. Food is scarcer, and the search is more desperate. They dig for roots deeper than usual, gnawing it dry. Fibrous scraps. Their jaws work tirelessly, chewing not for pleasure, but because there is no other choice. You chew with them, and your teeth ache, your mouth dry from the effort, yet they persist. Flexibility, you realize, is their hidden weapon. Later, a brief rainstorm sweeps in with sudden violence. Dark clouds gather, wind whips through the grasses, and fat drops pelt your skin. The clan huddles beneath a tree, fur plastered to their bodies, shivering. Within minutes, the dry earth becomes slick mud. Water gushes in gullies, pooling into fresh puddles. The transformation is almost magical where minutes ago there was dust. Now frogs croak and insects swarm. Australopithecus rush to drink, scoop insects, and devour what new life the rain delivers. You watch them seize the fleeting abundance, knowing by tomorrow it might be gone again. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some researchers suggest early hominins may have migrated in rhythm with these climatic shifts, following patches of forest or grassland as they expanded and contracted. Imagine packing up your entire family, not because you wanted to, but because the trees you depended on disappeared. No moving trucks, no maps, just feet and instinct. If you didn't adapt, you died. Simple as that. As the rain clears, the air cools briefly, and the clan moves on. You notice their pattern, never lingering too long in one place. Always searching, always flexible. They are generalists, not specialists, and that's why they endure. A monkey that eats only one fruit starves when that tree disappears. A grazing animal dies when grasslands turn to scrub. But Australopithecus, they nibble roots, crunch termites, scavenge marrow, and chew figs. It's not elegant, but it's survival in a world that won't stop spinning the climate wheel. Scientists have debated whether these shifting landscapes pushed bipedalism even further. When forests shrank, being able to walk long distances across open ground became essential. You can almost hear the theory whispering as you trudge beside them. The savannah forced them upright, mile by mile. They didn't march with purpose, they staggered, scavenged, and stumbled forward. But every wobbling step was practice for the future. The clan pauses at the edge of a drying lake bed, cracked mud stretching outward like shattered pottery. They dig into the damp patches, pulling up roots and small tubers. Juveniles poke at frogs hopping in the shallow puddles, squealing with delight before trying to catch them. One succeeds, proudly munching his slimy prize. You grimace, but he smacks his lips with satisfaction. Protein is protein. After all, humour slips in when the youngest juvenile, eager to imitate, dives headfirst into the mud, emerging with clumps sticking to his fur. The others chatter in what sounds suspiciously like laughter, swatting at him as if to say, "Nice try, but maybe stick to figs." You laugh too, because mud pies apparently have a much older history than you thought. By afternoon, the heat returns, steam rising from the ground where rain had fallen hours earlier. The clan trudges onward, dust clinging to wet fur. Their resilience is astonishing. They don't complain, don't despair, they just keep moving, eyes scanning, hands probing, jaws chewing. You wonder if this relentless adaptability is what truly marks the path to humanity. Not intelligence alone, not tools, but the sheer refusal to give up when the world turns against you. Historians still argue whether climate shifts were the single greatest force driving human evolution. Some claim it was the unpredictability itself that mattered, the constant pressure to change, adapt, and improvise. Others argue that while climate was important, it was social bonds or diet that mattered more. Watching the clan, you feel the truth lies somewhere in between. Climate cracked the whip, but only those who bonded, shared, and experimented had the stamina to keep going. As evening falls, the savannah glows golden, and the clan gathers in another tree for the night. The land around you looks transformed yet again. What was barren at dawn is now alive with insects and frogs after the rain. Tomorrow it might be barren again. The only certainty is uncertainty. You climb with them, settling into the branches, and glance across the plain. Clouds drift, stars begin to emerge, and the air cools quickly. You feel both small and strangely reassured. Australopithecus didn't control the climate. They didn't predict it, master it, or bend it to their will. They simply endured it. And maybe that's the secret, learning to bend with the wind. To chew roots when figs are gone. To laugh in the mud, even when predators lurk. As your eyes grow heavy, you realize this is the essence of their legacy. Not dominance, not brilliance, but flexibility in the face of a world that never stops changing. It is a lesson that will echo through millions of years, carried in bones, brains, and the quiet persistence of survival. The air feels different again this morning, though not because of weather. Instead, it's something subtler, the shape of the clan itself. As you walk among them, you begin to notice distinctions, variations that suggest not all Australopithecus were the same. Their bones, scattered through time and discovered millions of years later, tell stories of cousins and offshoots, branching species that shared the same world, yet carried their own quirks. You're beginning to see whispers of species diversity, hints that evolution doesn't march in a straight line, but meanders like a river, splitting into many streams. One of the best-known figures among these beings is Australopithecus afarensis, the same species as Lucy, the fossil discovered in 1974 in Ethiopia. She was small, barely over a metre tall, with long arms and a pelvis that confirmed upright walking. Watching the clan, you can imagine her moving among them, balanced between tree climbing and ground walking. Between ape and human, her kind thrived for hundreds of thousands of years, leaving footprints at Letoli that still whisper across time. But afarensis wasn't alone. A few million years ago, other branches sprouted, Australopithecus africanus in South Africa carried rounder skulls and slightly bigger brains. Perhaps more playful, perhaps more cunning. Fossils of Africanus show smaller teeth, hinting at dietary differences. Were they eating softer foods? Or had they simply lucked into environments less harsh? Historians still argue whether Africanus directly gave rise to early humans or was just a cousin who survived for a while before fading. As you walk, you notice one individual with a broader face, robust jaws, and massive teeth. He crunches roots with ease, as if his skull is designed for it. You realize you're looking at something like Australopithecus robustus, or perhaps his cousin Paranthropus. These offshoots were chewing machines, adapted to grind through tough vegetation when other foods ran scarce. Imagine a prehistoric version of a food processor, powered by bone and muscle. Yet, ironically, their specialization may have doomed them when the environment shifted again. Flexibility outlasted brute chewing power. Here's a quirky tidbit. Paranthropus is sometimes nicknamed the Nutcracker Man, though later studies suggested he probably ate softer foods more often than his intimidating teeth implied. It's a reminder that appearances deceive. Just because you look like a super chewer doesn't mean you spend all day gnawing coconuts. Still, the nickname sticks, because who doesn't want a fossilized ancestor with a comic book title? The clan you walk with seems mixed, slender-bodied individuals moving lightly through the grass, stockier ones lingering near roots and tubers. It's not impossible. Fossil evidence suggests multiple species overlapped in both time and geography, sharing landscapes, perhaps even eyeing each other warily across watering holes. Did they compete for food? Or did they avoid each other? Did they recognize kinship? Or did they see only rivals? Scientists still argue whether these different Australopithecus species ever interacted. And if so, how? You imagine it. Two groups meeting on the savannah. They approach cautiously, sniffing the air, posturing with hoots and displays. Maybe they share water at a distance, tension heavy in the air, or maybe, on rare occasions, they mingle, exchanging not just territory but genes. Evolution isn't tidy, it's messy, tangled, full of chance encounters and blurred boundaries. The afternoon sun blazes, and the clan pauses to rest in the shade. You study their faces more closely now. Some have flatter noses, some heavier brows. Infants cling the same way, though wide-eyed, trusting, oblivious to species debates. Watching them, you feel the tug of continuity, whatever their shapes. They are united by survival, by the endless rhythm of eating, grooming, climbing, fleeing. The differences are real, but so are the similarities. Historians still argue about where exactly your lineage lies. Did Africanus give rise to Homo habilis, the first true toolmaker? Or was it a forensis, Lucy's people, who carried the torch forward? Perhaps multiple lines contributed, blending over generations until clear boundaries dissolved. The fossil record is patchy, like reading a novel with half the pages torn out. You can guess the plot, but the details remain elusive. Evening comes, and with it, the usual scramble to the trees. The clan clambers upward, settling into nests, while you follow with aching arms. As you sit among them, the stars emerge overhead, the Milky Way spilling across the sky in a brilliant band. You wonder if species mattered to them. Did Afarensis and Africanus care about differences in jaw shape or brain size? Did they feel divided, or did they simply live? To them, survival was the only category that mattered. Humor bubbles up when you imagine Australopithecus academics debating taxonomy. One robust individual grunts, insisting he's clearly Paranthropus. Another waves a stick, arguing for Africanus lineage. A third throws a fig in exasperation. In truth, they had no labels, no need to name themselves. Those labels belong to you. Peering back through time with your obsession for categories, to them, life was just life. And yet, you feel the significance of these whispers of species. Evolution wasn't one straight ladder climbing neatly toward humanity. It was a bush, a tangle, branches sprouting and withering, some leading forward, others ending abruptly. The Australopithecus were not failed humans. They were successful in their own right, thriving for millions of years in brutal environments. Their diversity was their strength, their experimentation the groundwork for what would come. As you drift toward sleep, the clan murmurs around you. their soft calls blending with the hum of the night. Whether afarensis, africanus, or robustus, they were all part of the same great experiment. The experiment of walking upright, of surviving with wit instead of claws, of daring to live between tree and grassland. Their whispers of species remind you that history is not a single path, but a chorus of voices, some fading, some lingering, all part of the same song that eventually leads to you. The air is cool tonight, the kind of cool that makes your skin tighten and your ears sharpen to every sound. You sit high in the tree among the Australopithecus clan, listening to the sigh of the savannah. It feels quieter, though of course it isn't truly still. Nothing here ever is. Predators still stalk, insects still buzz, but something in the rhythm has shifted. The story you've walked through is winding toward its close. These hairy ape-humans, for all their persistence, are approaching the edge of their tomorrow. You've seen their world roots and figs chewed with aching jaws, termites licked from sticks, carcasses stolen in haste from prowling hyenas. You've watched their fragile nights in branches, their startled runs from leopards, their careful grooming rituals, and their curious stone banging. Every day was survival, every night a gamble. And yet, against every odd, they endured for nearly 2 million years, longer than your species has existed so far. That alone is staggering. But endurance isn't the same as permanence. Evolution is a river, always flowing, always splitting, always eroding its banks. Australopithecus lived at the edge of great change. You can already sense it, brains that hint at more, hands that linger on stones, social bonds thickening into something more complex. Their whispers will not vanish. They will echo into Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and eventually into the strange world you know today, where their distant descendant lies in bed with a glowing screen. Listening to their story, scientists still argue about the exact fate of each Australopithecus species. Some may have given rise to the Homo line directly. Others may have been evolutionary cul-de-sacs, surviving for a time before disappearing. Perhaps drought starved them. Perhaps competition with more tool-savvy cousins edged them out. The fossil record doesn't provide a neat ending. It offers fragments, skulls, footprints, and teeth that leave more questions than answers. And yet, endings are not failures. The branches that fade nourish the soil for the ones that remain. Without the experiments of Australopithecus, without their clumsy first steps on 2 legs, their persistence through shifting climates, their cautious bravery under predator eyes, you would not exist. They walked awkwardly so you could run gracefully. They gnawed roots so you could taste bread. They perched in fear so you could build cities. Here's a quirky tidbit to lighten the mood. Some paleoanthropologists suggest Australopithecus may have been surprisingly noisy, with their high-pitched calls, hoots, and squeals. A clan might have sounded like a chaotic choir echoing across the grassland. Imagine the soundtrack of your evolutionary dawn as something closer to a zoo orchestra than a quiet National Geographic special. It's funny to think that your story may have begun not with solemn silence, but with squawks and giggles carried on the wind. Still, in their noisy persistence, they left behind more than bones. They left you with instincts, the quick pulse of fear at a shadow, the satisfaction of sharing food, the comfort of closeness at night. They left you with curiosity, the urge to bang stones together, to test, to wonder. They left you with resilience, the ability to adapt when the world shifts beneath your feet. You carry them in your very marrow, whether you notice it or not. As the clan settles into the branches for what, to them, is just another night, you feel the weight of the journey. You've walked with them through hunger and heat, storms and predators. You've tasted their diet, felt their fear, and glimpsed their potential. Now, as the stars bloom above, you sense that their chapter is closing. But the book continues. Their extinction is not an erasure. It is a handoff. The baton passes forward, quietly, without ceremony, but with lasting consequence. Few more, even here at the edge, refuses to leave you. One juvenile scratches his head furiously, then suddenly tries to chase his own fleas in circles, tumbling on the branch. The others chatter as if amused. And you laugh too, softly, because even in the shadow of extinction, life is still ridiculous. The small sillinesses remind you that existence is never only about survival. It's also about moments of play, about joy sneaking in even when tomorrow is uncertain. And then the night deepens. The clan grows quiet. You lean back against the bark, feeling the weight of millions of years pressing down like a blanket. Tomorrow, and tomorrow after that, and millions of tomorrows. These beings will fade from the earth, but not from memory, not from legacy. You'll carry them forward in your stride, in your hands, in the restless hum of your own brain. They are gone, and yet they are here, always. Now, the story slows. You let your breathing lengthen, matching the soft rise and fall of the clan around you. The stars above blur slightly, as if the night itself is stretching into a yawn. The predators still prowl, but their sounds seem distant now, muffled as though carried away by a softer wind. The harsh edges of the savannah, its dust, its thorns, its hunger melt into something quieter, something almost gentle. You picture the clan nestled in their tree, bodies warm against each other, safe for now. Their chests rise and fall, breaths steady, and you feel yourself falling into rhythm with them. The frantic pace of their day, the chaos of survival, is over. What remains is stillness. A hush. Let your mind soften here. Let the sharp images blur the leopard's eyes, the cracking drought, the bitter taste of roots. Let them drift away like shadows, slipping behind hills. What lingers is not the danger, but the persistence, the quiet strength that has carried life through storms and fire. You are connected to them. Every step you take tomorrow, every laugh, every bite of food, carries their echo. But for now, you don't need to think about tomorrows. For now, you can simply rest, knowing that even across millions of years, you are part of a story that keeps going. Breathe slowly. Listen to the hum of the night. Let your eyelids grow heavy. The Australopithecus fade into the dark, but their presence is still here steady, reassuring, eternal in its own quiet way. And with that, the story closes. The savannah dims. The stars fade. Sleep comes gently, carrying you into your own tomorrow.